Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar this morning. We will get started in just a minute. We'll give people a few seconds to get settled in and get their mic, their video feeds working and all of that. So just hang on here and we'll get started in just a minute. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just going to give a final reminder. We're going to give a few more seconds for people to settle in, but thank you for joining our webinar this morning, the 2026 Legislative Preview with our commissioners. All right, let's say we get rolling here. Good morning. My name is Richard Ponte, and I'm Director of Events and Programs for the Maine State Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the entire team here, it is my pleasure to welcome you to 2026 Legislative Preview with our commissioners, the latest in our webinar series. Thank you for joining. Before we get going, there are just a few things we'd like to share with you about today's session. All participants are in listen-only mode. Please submit questions using the Q&A function. Time permitting, we will answer them by the end of the session. We will also use the Q&A feature to share useful links and other materials. We have enabled closed captioning in English. You can access this feature by toggling it on the taskbar at the bottom of your screen. The meeting is being recorded. We will make the recording available to you on our website in the next few days. And finally, if you lose your connection, please use the same Zoom link to reconnect. We would now like to begin by thanking our sponsors. Our premier sponsor is Unitil. Our 2026 webinar series sponsors are AARP, Central Maine Power Company, KeyBank, Next Era Energy Resources, and Northern Light Health. Our supporting sponsor is Maine Department of Economic and Community Development. I would now like to introduce Alec O'Mara to provide a few remarks on behalf of today's premier sponsor, Unitil. Alec serves as the Director of External Affairs for Unitil. Good morning, Alec.
Good morning. Richard, thank you so much for the time. I am fully cognizant of the fact that absolutely no one on this webinar is here to listen to me, so I'll be as brief as I possibly can. For those who are not aware, Unitil is the largest natural gas provider in Maine, and our team works hard all year round to make sure the system is operating as it should be right now when folks need it the most. This is the dead of winter. Folks are using our gas and gas infrastructure to make sure that their homes and businesses are running properly. I'd love to thank the commissioners for participating this morning, and I'd also like to thank everyone who is on this call for participating themselves. We sponsor events like this because we are firm believers that the process works best when as many people as possible are involved and well informed. And this is exactly the sort of event that helps do exactly that. So we really appreciate the Chamber for putting this together. And again, thanks to everyone from taking their time in the middle of a morning to be a part of an event like this. Back to you, Richard.
Thank you, Alec. And many thanks to all of our sponsors this morning. It is now my pleasure to introduce the President and CEO of the Maine State Chamber of Commerce, Patrick Woodcock. Patrick will be moderating the conversation today. Good morning, Patrick.
Well, good morning, and thank you all for joining. Appreciate the support from our sponsors, led with Unitil, and also to our commissioners that are some of the busiest public servants in state government who are spending time with us this morning to outline their department priorities. I did want to set the stage for the Maine economy for the context that we're about to describe the legislative issues that we'll be confronting. Thank you to the Chamber staff for all the work they're doing day in and day out to cover the issues for the Maine business community. First of all, there's some clarity right now for the state's public policy. This time last year, there was a lot of uncertainty for where the federal tax code would go, what provisions would be extended, what provisions would be removed. We do have that clarity now. Regardless of your impressions of the big, beautiful bill, there are implications for the state's economy, and that will really be guiding a lot of the discussion for tax conformity within the supplemental budget. One key issue, and Linda Caprera will be going into this, is research and development investments, making sure that we have a competitive environment that encourages businesses to make those investments here in Maine. Secondly, if anybody is reading the news, our healthcare in rural Maine is really fragile, and that's going to be exacerbated by federal changes. Thankfully, there is funding that is available for the state to make key investments to bend the curve and hopefully improve the fundamentals of cost delivery of healthcare in rural Maine. And then finally, we are looking at housing is one of the main aspects across the United States that is driving inflation. Inflation data came out yesterday. Housing continues to be a lot of pressure on all American households, but in particular in the Northeast, housing has really driven the barriers to households really making ends meet. There are two reports that really will guide the foundation at the Housing and Economic Development Committee for what legislation can enable unlocking housing production in here and provide housing solutions to an entire workforce. With that, I wanted to turn to Linda Caprera, who will outline the budget and tax issues before the legislature in this second session. Linda.
Good morning, everyone. I'm offline. I'm not feeling that great this morning, so bear with me. As Patrick said, this is the second regular session of the 132nd Legislature. It convened last Wednesday, and it really has hit the ground running, legislators have. This is a short session. It goes from January to mid-April. They're starting to meet on Tuesdays in January. I expect they're going to meet a couple of days. They're going to add a day or so in February. But really, what they are doing right now is really focusing on carryovers. They've been directed by legislative leadership to get the carryovers out of committee by the end of January. And they're really working hard to do that. They've already started public hearings and work sessions last week, and they're carrying it over. And really, everyone's hitting the ground running. So like Patrick said, what are we going to be focused on this session? Clearly, the supplemental budget. The governor is working on that right now. They've been very tight-lipped about this budget. We expect it's going to come out probably at the last week of January, from what we're hearing. Right now, the state's running ahead in revenues of about $250 million. What's going to be in that budget? Anyone knows. Right now, the fiscal, like I said, the revenues are running about $250 million ahead in the current biennium for 26 and 27. Basically, the Revenue Forecasting Committee met last month, and they really, they're very cautious because there's a lot of ongoing uncertainty with respect to the Maine economy. And as is across the nation. You've got the tariffs, the imposition of the tariffs, which have really kind of affected consumer and business spending. You've got the government shutdown this past, summer. So there's a lot of factors in here, and they were really reluctant to make any really major forecasting decisions because of that. So, in the past, post-COVID, we saw a lot of huge increases in the sales tax. People were working from home. They're ordering online. We saw individual income taxes go up. We're seeing a lot less of that now, as is other states or across the nation. Annual growth for this state is really, projected at like 0.9 for 26 and 1.4 for 27. So it's not a lot. Sales tax revenues are still coming in, so is individual income tax, but a lot of that's driven by a lot of, stock sales and that type of thing. So overall, I think people are cautious, but that's kind of where that is. Major issue this session, tax conformity. As Patrick said, at the congressional level, they passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, OB3, we call it, OB3 Kenobi. Basically, that bill had a lot of provisions in it from the individual side as well as the business side. And the individual side, legislators right now, every year they have to decide whether or not they're going to conform to federal changes at the federal level. And what they're going to do this session is decide, are they going to, conform in part, in whole, or not at all? I don't see them doing nothing at all. They're going to conform to something, some provisions in here. Question is what? There's a lot on the individual side with the increases in the standard deductions. You've got some income tax deductions for overtime and tips. On the business side, like Patrick said, our members have really focused on R&D expensing, immediate R&D expensing. And what that does is it allows businesses to deduct R&D expenses in the year that they're incurred, rather than amortizing them out over 5 years. And what that does is it puts more money into these hands of these innovators. And innovation is so important to the Maine economy. If we don't have innovation in the state, we're going to fall behind, not only technologically, but as an economy as a whole. It is critical that we get those dollars. And right now, in the question becomes is for the R&D immediate expensing is, do they, are they going to go retroactively? Are they going to go, 25 on? Are they going to do the entire enchilada? Or are they going to do a piece of the enchilada? And basically what you got is, it's about $130 million if they take it and go retroactively. I don't see them doing that. Our members are really trying to get, from 25 on, that's about a $58 to $60 million price tag. If they were to do full conformity, it's over $400 million. So I don't see them potentially doing full conformity, but you never know. We would love to see full conformity because, that is basically administratively from Maine Revenue Services to the taxpayer. It's easy to do one set of books than two. So we'll see what they do on that. And the Taxation Committee is going to be considering its LD 2010. And they'll be considering that as, their tax conformity bill. The other bill here is the pass-through entity tax bill. This bill really, basically, it helps owners, small businesses that are pass-through entities, subchapter S corps, sole proprietors, partnerships. Basically, under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, Congress imposed a SALT cap limitation. So if you itemize your deductions, you are limited on what you could deduct to $10,000 of state and local taxes. In OB3, they increased that to $40,000. So under the $10,000 limit, there is a bill right now before taxation, LD 191, and under the $10,000 limit, it generated $30 million for the state. It's a revenue generator. And what this does is it provides businesses with significant tax relief at the federal level for businesses that are operating as pass-through entities, because it allows the businesses to basically pay your taxes at the entity level rather than pass them through to the individual level. And so it's treated more as a business expense. So in and of itself, it generates more money. It basically saves taxpayers, small businesses, more money. They may pay a little bit more on their state tax, but on their federal tax, it will save them more. 36 to 30 other states in the nation do this. This is a workaround that Congress created or approved. It's a no-brainer, basically, for the legislature, in my opinion. This is something that's going to definitely help small businesses. It's elective. It's something that the legislature ought to pass. It's truly going to generate, at the $10,000 level, it generated $30 million for the state. I can't imagine what it's going to generate at the $40,000 level. And I'm sure Maine Revenue Services is calculating that as we speak. So we're going to wait and see what happens with this. But that is a bill. It's going to be worked next week before taxation. We testified in support of that last year, and it's a really good bill. So anyways, that is something we're working on. Very quickly, in the other legislation, there's 4 income tax bills that basically would increase income taxes for high earners in the state and raise the top income tax rates, as high as 10.15%. It's, to pay for, K1, K through 12 education, to pay for, provide support for agriculture, It's really ridiculous. But we opposed all those bills last year. We're going to try to kill those bills this year. The other bills that we're working on is worldwide reporting. It's LD 1939. Basically, it requires taxpayers with more than $1 billion in gross revenue to file a combined return containing all of their financial information worldwide. Proponents of the bill claim that there's a loophole that allows corporations to escape taxation, but the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act took care of that through a provision that's called the GILTI provision. It's Global Intangible Low Tax Income provision. That basically requires that all your income globally has to be taxed in the US, and it has to be taxed at a minimum rate. So it's really a non-issue at this point with this bill. We'll testify that on today. And one more bill I just want to touch base with is LD 127. This is a huge problem. It's a corporate disclosure tax bill. And that bill would, the governor's office opposed this last year. And basically what this would do, it's in judiciary, it would allow the GOC, the Government Oversight Committee, legislators on that committee to obtain all sorts of confidential and proprietary data, which we totally oppose. Tax returns, medical information, personnel records, everything. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this bill because there's potentially a bill coming out of GOC on this as well. So those are some of the major bills. There's a lot more, but that's kind of a major what's going on in my world. So I'm going to turn it over. If there's no questions, I'm going to turn it over to Amanda, our newest member of the chamber team.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to meet you all. This morning, I'm going to go over a few items that we're looking into 2026 for. The first one is workers' compensation COLA increases. There has not been any resolution on this. It's been discussed. It's been assessed, and there has not been any agreement. I've been in contact with the Workers' Compensation Board in discussions with them. They feel that it's going to go into 2026, more communication about it, but they don't feel that they're hoping to make some progress, but not sure if there will be any resolution, what is going to happen this year. There will be an upcoming meeting that has not been set yet. I will be attending to get more information to keep up on all the information that is going to be coming forward with that. The second one that I'd like to talk about was the Paid Family Medical Leave Act. As we know, it started with payroll deductions last January 2025, and quarterly premiums started due in April of 2025. The rate for this is 1% of employers with 15 or more employees, and half a percent of wages for employers with fewer than 15 employees. These rates are fixed until 2027, and then we'll see what happens from there. The department will be reviewing the solvency on October of 2027, and they'll have a report out of what they're going to do for the following year. Benefits are set to begin currently on May 1st, 2026 for employees. However, there is a authority meeting that is scheduled for January 20th. They're going to be doing some voting and discussing these program matters. So we'll see what happens then. But as of right now, May 1st will be the start. There is a lawsuit with the Paid Family Medical Leave Act that has come out, and it created another bill, LD 2018, which is an act to amend the requirements governing self-insurance plans in the Paid Family Medical Leave Benefit Program. And what this does is it limits multi-employer self-insured private plans. So there's no real verbiage in the current standing of paid family medical leave to say that these groups of employers can't get together and have a self-insured private plan. What the DOL is pushing back on and saying, yes, you cannot do that. So with the lawsuit coming through with these employers, LD 2018 has come out and said, here, this is going to clear this up. And what that states is it's going to try and prohibit the pooling of multiple employers for self-insured plans. So we're going to be watching that. There has not been anything set for the information or any sessions for that yet. There's also the actuarial came out for 2025, and what it basically said was that it projects that the paid family and medical leave will remain solvent for the next 10 years. So that's what it's predicting. And it shows that the fund meets Department of Labor funding targets under current contribution rates. And that's actually staying at the 1%, the 0.5%. And they're saying that they'll actually be able to provide that. So LD, employer substance use testing policy requirements. So LD 2110, this updates Maine substance use testing laws to expand employee protections and clarify employer responsibilities and limits. The key changes is that it emphasizes rehabilitation, treatment, safe return, core policy goals, and it requires employers who conduct testing to follow a policy, and it gives more guidelines. The possible impacts to this is that it's going to require more reporting through a medical review officer. It allows employees to contest non-negative results, and it reduces employer-supported rehabilitation of 12 weeks with costs borne to the employee. And there's a lot of concerns around that. Employers may face increased administrative and compliance obligations, including updating policies, managing appeals, and ensuring proper reporting procedures. There is a public hearing session next week, and we'll have more information on that one. And then we also have some carryover bills that are still in concept draft form. LD 378, which is an act to strengthen healthcare systems in Maine. LD 663, an act regarding healthcare. And then LD 669, an act regarding labor. I have reached out to all the sponsors of these. I heard back from one, but there has nothing's been, as of yesterday, I looked yesterday to see if they had gone any further, and they're not. They are still in concept form. So. And that is all I have. And if there's no questions, I'll turn it to Ashley.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy to join you this morning. Just want to talk about a couple of the bills I follow. So here at the Chamber, I follow energy, environmental, and technology issues. Recapping a bit, last session, the legislature passed LD 1777, dealing with Maine's net energy billing program. This law made reforms to Maine's NEB program by really tightening eligibility and changing how projects can be compensated. We're talking about more large-scale projects, your community solar projects, really the rooftop kind of backyard behind the grid programs aren't as impacted, but it really impacted those larger scale projects. One, by tightening eligibility in particular, limiting the ability to extend existing NEB agreements. So essentially phasing out those utility size NEB agreements. And then it also changed how bill credits can be calculated, really to improve predictability, but also to reduce some of those costs that ratepayers have seen over the last few years increase. This bill also requires the governor's energy office, which now is being absorbed by the new Department of Energy Resources, to develop a successor program. One thing I just want to bring up, the main reason for including net energy billing here, as I know it's a bit backward looking, it may seem, is that there is a lawsuit before the U.S. District Court A number of solar developers filed that late November. They are challenging the law. And so just want to make folks aware of that. And another bill in the environmental space that the chamber is following very closely is LD 1870. This bill would establish a climate superfund cost recovery program, and that would be housed within the Department of Environmental Protection. Under this program, an entity that was engaged in the extraction of fossil fuel, refining of crude oil between January 1995 and December of 2024 would be assessed a fee for that entity's share of contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. Specifically, it would be assessed on entities who were responsible for 1 billion metric tons of greenhouse gas or more. The chamber is strongly opposed to this legislation. There's actually a work session on it today. But our opposition really is that, for generations, state policy has recognized these products as essential for public health, safety, economic stability. And this legislation is directly conflicting with that, essentially telling businesses, thank you for providing these products. We are now going to retroactively assess a fee on you. It also singles out one specific sector of our economy, which provides resources to every sector. So there's a large coalition of business associations who are opposed to this, in addition to the Maine Chamber, ranging from many different sectors. Our real concerns are just the troubling precedent it sets by retroactively penalizing and singling out a sector. Also, the litigation that could come from this. New York and Vermont passed similar laws 2 years ago. Those are tied up in litigation based on the constitutionality of them. And then another piece is just what this will cost to businesses, the consumer, and frankly, the state if this ends up in litigation. The state has so many priorities. This would definitely raise costs for the state too, if we end up seeing this before the courts and if it were to advance. So that's a bill that we are very concerned about. It was carried over from last session, and as mentioned, there's a work session on it today. Another bill, also a carryover from last session, is LD 1822, which would develop an Online Data Privacy Act. This legislation, an aspect we are not opposed to, actually support, is that it would provide consumers the ability to access their data that businesses have collected on them. They could go in and correct that data, delete that data, make changes if they feel necessary. Again, we aren't opposed to that. We do have real concerns that this legislation would limit how businesses can use the data to communicate with their existing customers and reach prospective ones. One thing I would note, as this has been discussed before the Judiciary Committee and, in the halls of the State House, is that there is an exemption for small businesses in how they use the data. However, if these tools are limited, they no longer have them as a resource, such as Constant Contact, Google, Facebook ads, to really get their product in front of consumers and compete with the larger businesses whose name folks like you and I are familiar with. Also, those small businesses, TV ads, radio ads can be extremely costly. Not too many people are using newspaper ads as much as they used to, but those are also costly. And a dollar can go so much further for small businesses when they do these online ads that can very specifically reach the type of consumers who may be interested in their products. So I would just note 17 states, over 100 million consumers have their data protected today under a consensus framework adopted by those 17 states. That's the type of legislation the chamber is advocating for when it comes to data privacy. We don't want Maine to become an outlier. We're a state made of many, many small businesses, many of whom are on this call. And we just want to make sure that they are able to compete in a way that keeps them competitive, keeps our state economy competitive, and really allows them to continue to grow their businesses. I would just give one very quick example. Under 1822, the majority report, again, which the chamber is opposing, someone goes on, let's say, to an outdoor retail store, their website, let's say Ashley is the one doing it. I'm looking at boots for women, size 9. That business could no longer serve me an ad for women's socks to maybe accompany those new boots I was looking at purchasing. So it would have a real impact in how, again, we get products in front of consumers. So that bill's on the House calendar under unfinished business. We'll be continuing to keep a close eye on it. And then really looking ahead, as I know these bills were both carryovers, the Energy, Utilities, and Technology Committee had 10 bills carried over, many of which they've worked. They have work sessions tomorrow. And then they have 6 bills that were approved for the second session thus far. Over in Environment and Natural Resources, they have 7 bills that were carried over, some of which they have public or work sessions on today, 6 additional bills added for the second session. We frequently see other bills get approved either via the Ledge Council meeting or on a ballot. So more to come potentially, but did just want to raise and let folks know kind of the scope and number of bills that we're looking at this session. And then on the technology side, there's an electronic right to repair bill before the Housing and Economic Development Committee. There are 3 AI bills, 2 of which deal with mental health and healthcare, how AI can be used in those settings. There's also one dealing with youth and chatbots. So just want to make folks aware of those bills as well. I am happy to take questions, or I can pass this on to our next speaker.
Well, thank you, Ashley. You can see from the entire chamber staff, there's a full spectrum of public policy before the legislature. Affordability has been a central issue on energy. That's going to continue. We saw that with both parties. One hopeful aspect, we did see the announcement that the Northeast Clean Energy Connect is coming online this Friday to deliver clean energy into the region. As Amanda mentioned, paid family medical leave is on the minds of all businesses and employees. We are so appreciative of the Department of Labor's staff for their hard work on that program. While we've had objections to some of the policy decisions, it's been a huge undertaking with the Department of Labor, one of the most consequential laws to pass in a generation. I did want to turn now to our Commissioner of Labor, Commissioner Laura Fortman, to give some department priorities for DOL. Commissioner Fortman.
Oh, thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you for inviting me to this webinar today. And also, I've found it already really informative. So I think that there's going to be some outreach after this meeting on a couple of issues. For those of you who kind of think of the Department of Labor in like one lane or another, I just want to do a quick level setting on like what our mission is. And for us at the department, it's pretty simple. Our job is to help employees and employers succeed and thrive in the Maine economy. And the economy changes. We already heard some of that laid out a little bit earlier. But the programs that we deliver here are designed to help support workers and employers, whatever the environment is in the economy. We try to help employers recruit and train a strong workforce. And we also try to help employees maintain the skills that they need in order to be competitive. And we're there for people when their jobs are lost. I know, we went through this with a number of folks during the pandemic when unemployment was front and center, and also when they have to step away for health reasons, which is the new PFML program that Patrick referred to, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And when we think about the economy, we want to make sure that we believe that there's a place in the economy for everyone, and we want to help them find that place. So we have our Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, and they also have targeted programs to help, again, both the employers and the employees. And along the way, we're trying to make sure that workplaces are safe and that and fair. And we provide information about the rules that we enforce and the regulations, and our safety and training programs are available statewide. And then underpinning all of that is our Center for Workforce Research and Information, and the data that they provide, again, to help both employers and employees understand what is going on in the labor market and how to take advantage of that. A couple of, and I promise I will talk about PFML, but a couple of things that I did want to just put out there for folks is that we now have a new resource for both, again, employers and employees. And I'd like to offer this up as a potential future Chamber and Department of Labor coordinated event, and that's WorkSource Maine. And this is a one-stop shop. It's that will be available, is available currently, where resources for both employers and employees are on there. It's not to keep people on this site, but it pushes information out. It's a collaborative effort. The university, the community college, DHHS, DECD, all partners have provided input into this, and we've heard loud and clear that both workers and employers say, can you at least just give us one place to try to get some of this information? And so WorkSource Maine is that, is our attempt to respond to that. And we've also factored in the work of the Department of Economic and Community Development. We had partnered with them on the 10-year economic plan. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we hear loud and clear, you want better collaboration and coordination across state agencies. The governor has been committed to that. And for us at the department, as I was listening to all of the presentations by the chamber staff, we don't lead many of those initiatives, but we touch most of them because all of them in some way impact workforce, and that is the core of who we are. So we want to be a partner. We try to be a partner. And Patrick, I really, really appreciated the kind words you had to say about our staff on PFML, because that's how we see engaging, is the paid family medical leave program. As Amanda laid out, it began accepting contributions in January 1st, 2025, which was on target with the mandate we were given by the legislature, which is you shall start this program on January 1, 2025. I want to clarify a little bit about the actuarial report. At the meeting on January 20th of the authority, the PFML authority, what they're going to be doing is looking at that actuarial report, and the statute gives the authority the responsibility to review that actuarial report and determine whether or not the benefits can begin payment on May 1st of 2026. The actuarial report is available online right now. We posted it in December so people can look at that. Any information about PFML is available on that PFML website. And then on January 20th at the authority meeting, the actuary will be there, we'll walk through the report, and then the authority will vote to either move forward if it seems like it, if they agree that this is solvent and the program can start then, or they have they could, if it was not solvent, they could delay the start date for benefits by up to 90 days. So that's the decision that will be made on January 20th by the authority. And those meetings are all public. People can attend virtually. And we do post all of this information on our website. I would say the other piece of legislation, and Amanda did a nice job of laying out the group trust concept. There is a piece of legislation. We look at that as a clarification. As guidance that we've provided, we do not believe that the statute currently allows it, and that is the piece of legislation that will be in front of the Maine legislature, and that will be determined at that point. I'm trying to, I think we have a lot happening in the workforce side of the house, but not legislation. I mean, one of the things that's interesting here in Maine is that most of the workforce development funds are federal funds that come into the state. We have been very successful at applying for additional grants. So as I was listening to some of the other areas of interest, whether it's around construction or energy, that again, as a collaborative effort across government, as well as like with the Department of Health and Human Services, is as these other agencies get grants, they recognize that you can't do the work that needs to be done unless you have a workforce to do it. So any of my colleagues, when they're submitting proposals, they try to include a piece around workforce, and that's how we have resources to, again, partner with industry, identify what are those skill gaps that employers are seeing, and then how can we provide a package of wraparound services and supports so that people can be successful and employers can get the skilled workforce that they need. One of the primary training models that we have embraced, and that I think across the state has been embracing, is around registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs, because that the employer is identifying the skills that they need, the schedule of work there, and it's helping to grow those skilled workers in the economy. But I think I may have gone over, Patrick. I apologize. I'm trying to cram a lot in here. I did not, the one thing I do want to say as well is that I appreciate having conversations ahead of time. And Amanda, I would love to sit down and talk with you about the substance use bill, because we didn't think that was controversial. So I really appreciate being on here and hearing that it is, because the intent was definitely not controversial. So let's try to have a conversation before we get to the public hearing stage.
I so appreciate that sentiment, Commissioner, and note you did perfectly on timing. Appreciate your update on the resources, the apprenticeship programs. We've had a strong relationship with Department of Labor. And furthermore, the actuarial study I did post in the chat. And it will be very interesting going through the assumptions and the advisory discussions later this month. Though there is no competition among commissioners on who has the busiest, most complex role. However, it would be a strong contender for the commissioner of the Department of Health and Human Services. I will say Commissioner Gagne-Holmes is not new to the department, but this is the first time she's joining our commissioner's update. Commissioner, I did now want to turn to you on your tasks ahead in 2026, which I know is many. Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I'm happy to be here, and I learned a lot too from your staff as they were going through your agenda items. So thank you. And I have just a few things to say about the department to level set. I think most of your members probably know, but Department of Health and Human Services is dedicated to promoting health, safety, resilience, and opportunity. We provide health and social services to approximately a third of the people of Maine, and we provide services from birth through death. And we have 8 offices and 2 psychiatric hospitals that fall under the purview of the Department of Health and Human Services. And for this coming year, I would have to say that 2 of the items you mentioned in your introduction, Patrick, are the primary focus of the department. And those are implementing the changes that the budget reconciliation bill, or the One Big Beautiful Bill, included last July. And particularly, I'm focused on the changes to Medicaid or MaineCare here in Maine, the eligibility requirements, as well as impact on SNAP. These 2 elements probably have some indirect and direct impact on your members across the state. For MaineCare, our rural counties, their population, we have the largest MaineCare population as a percent of population in some of our most rural counties, including Washington County, Aroostook, Aroostook, Washington, and Somerset. And so some of those members who are currently covered on MaineCare may end up losing coverage as a result of the budget reconciliation bill. Primarily, those are individuals who were covered because of Medicaid expansion. We have approximately anywhere between 90 and 100,000 individuals who received coverage as a result of Medicaid expansion. And we believe approximately 33,000 members may be susceptible to losing coverage. And that's only because we cannot automatically find information to confirm their eligibility for the work requirement elements. We've been collaborating with DOL to share data sources, but for about 33,000 individuals, they may meet the work requirements or an exemption. Those are just ones that we're going to really have to focus on in order to ensure that they remain covered if they are eligible. In addition, we have a number of SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. There are changes to that program that started in the fall of 2025, with changes to the amount of benefits people receive, as well as who is eligible. In addition to those changes from the One Big Beautiful Bill, but related, is the opportunity for the Rural Health Transformation Program that you alluded to in your opening remarks, Patrick. And I'm really pleased to say that after broad-based community engagement, we submitted an application, and on December 29th, we were awarded $190 million for the first year of the 5-year grant. We were asked to submit a hypothetical budget of $200 million, so we feel very good about the $190 million that was approved. We're currently working with CMS to finalize our budget, and once we have a final budget, we will post that on our website. And I shared with you, Patrick, the website where people can go to get more information. One thing that I think is important to flag with regard to the Rural Health Transformation Group is that DHHS is working to create a steering group across the administration so that we're not working in a silo, but aligning our efforts with DOL, DECD, DOE, the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. We feel that way, that broad array of perspectives is going to help us connect to what's going on across the state in the most effective manner possible. And a little bit about that grant, in case people aren't aware of what the focus is. It was very detailed on what you could apply for, and Maine chose to focus on 5 primary initiatives. And as Commissioner Fortman mentioned, one of those is workforce. In addition, we're focusing on population health, technology innovation, preserving access to coverage, and sustainable rural health ecosystems. And that last one is primarily focused on working with our rural hospitals to try to help promote sustainable regional services. And also the access component will support hospitals and other healthcare providers across the state. We can 15% of the 190 million will go to reimburse rural health providers across the state. So it's capped pursuant to CMS. We weren't allowed to provide more than 15% of our grant, but we are committed to 15% of the grant, which is the ceiling for us. We will only have approximately 6 months to try to move $190 million in the first year, given that we are already in the second quarter of the federal fiscal year. As soon as we have that approved budget, we're going to be actively working to list RFPs, hire staff, etc. If anyone is interested in rural health transformation, we have a number of positions that we recently posted on the Maine job site, and I would encourage you to check them out and also refer your friends. We need a number of people to hit the ground running in order to make the transformation that this grant is meant to do, and in order to start to implement before we see the impact of the Maine care cuts that are coming in January of 2027. So I will leave it at that. There are many other initiatives going on within the department, but those are the biggest ones.
Those are fairly significant, Commissioner. And it is so timely. I think we've all been watching some of the news on health services curtailed in rural areas, things that break your heart about maternity wards, critical services, and would just echo the call for people to step up to make this as successful as possible. That's the employers, people that want to support as part of the team with DHHS. But this is a totally new program, and it really can address what is a core challenge for our rural healthcare delivery system. I know hospitals, providers, employers are struggling with this, and appreciate the outline of those priorities. I did now want to turn to the Department of Economic and Community Development. All of this is core to a thriving economy, and we are so appreciative of Commissioner Duguay and his leadership hitting the ground running as he's taken over from Commissioner Johnson. He was unable to join us, but a seasoned hand with the department and with the legislature is with us. Mo Terry, who is not a stranger to the chamber. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mo.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I really appreciate the opportunity to share Mike's vision for DECD. And thank you, all of your members, for coming today and listening to what we all have to say. I guess I'll sort of start with Mike's mission, with the mission of DECD, which is to essentially provide great customer service for businesses all over the state, for communities that are searching for help, for helping create workforce programs with Commissioner Fortman and the Department of Labor, among a million other things. We are really excited this week specifically, last week and this week specifically. As most of you know, Charlotte Mace left the Office of Business Development over the fall. We miss her very much, but get to work with her at FAME, which is great. Jim Nyman, who is also not unfamiliar with DECD, he worked for Office of Business Development back in the day, so to speak, and he has come out of retirement to help us, to help Mike really in the last year of his time with the department. to really expand the business development side of the department, and to to continually provide that sort of great customer service with that our team does there. So we have sort of the the strategic plan as our roadmap, right? We've been using that for the past 8 years and are hoping to make sure that the next couple of years are set up so that we can not just continue that plan, but really bring as many of the recommendations that it provided to fruition, essentially. Mike sees the economic strategic plan as we've got there's about 40 or so initiatives that that we saw in the beginning that needed to be taken care of. There are about a couple of dozen of them we've actually accomplished or are accomplishing. And Mike sees another dozen or so in the works that we can get done within the within the last year, or within this year, that is, I'm sorry. The kind of key sectors that he'll be working on and has been working on will be the life sciences, of course, which last year we had a really great partnership with the legislature and the governor's office to create the Life Science Innovation Center. That is hit the ground running with an executive director who is working on putting a board together and working on all of the steps that it will take to have a literal space where people can go to, where people in the industry, in the life science industry, can go for resources, for collaborative work. We have this great wet lab that is working on that we're working on right now that will also sort of feed into that life sciences piece that Mike's been working on. He's been out in the field, as he is today, for the last year, really making sure that he talks to businesses and talks to startups that are really excited about being here, and trying to figure out all of the good things that we have, and sharing those resources, and all the things that maybe we're a little bit short on that we can all work on together. And that sort of takes us to the blue economy, which is one of those emerging pieces. I think tomorrow the blue economy report will be read to the Housing and Economic Development Committee. The recommendations that the committee, that the task force will be shared with the committee, and hopefully they will be able to sort of, I don't want to say follow on the coattails because it's different, but they're also entwined on that Life Sciences Center, and get the ball rolling for a more robust blue economy in the state. We already have, I'm really lucky. I'm actually at a conference today, and I'm right on the Portland waterfront, and you can see the boat zipping back and forth. That kind of work is so vital, not just to the heritage fishing industry, but of course, supporting other value products that can come out of the ocean that will continually support our heritage industries, but also get us to the next, sit us in this century pretty comfortably. We are, Patrick spoke earlier about federal challenges being settled, and there are a lot that are settled, but there are still some that we get calls about every day. So we're constantly keeping an eye on just federal stuff that's happening all around us. So part of that are some opportunities. One of them is opportunity zones. Another one is maritime zones. And Mike is working really hard with industry, with our business office, and with the maritime industry, to make sure that he hears from people in the businesses that could benefit from the expansion of the opportunity zones and for the creation of the maritime zones that are being worked on in Washington. So when those happen, we're able to really thoughtfully put our sort of put people in the right places, put regions in the right places to be able to take advantage of hopefully some really good credits. I'll kind of go into one more thing, not having to do with tourism, and then go into tourism. We've been getting a lot of inquiries about AI data centers. They're kind of the Mike calls it the new gold rush, and he's not wrong in that there are a lot of folks out there that are really interested in this business. There are a lot of municipalities that are interested in making sure that it would be the right thing for them if that does come. So I guess I maybe want to assure people that he's working really hard on making sure that we weed out the third party people that are coming here asking about this stuff versus the actual industry itself coming here and looking for space and looking for opportunity here. So we're working really closely and making sure that we do. If the AI thing comes to Maine, if the data center, I'm sorry, thing comes to Maine, then we are prepared for it and won't find ourselves in sticky situations. And then lastly, I just want to kind of talk a little bit about tourism and how hard our tourism department works to make sure that we take advantage of every bit of social media that's out there that talks about Maine, that our data matches up with the marketing efforts that we are putting out, and then a little bit of a plug for the Maine Outdoor Economic Summit that's happening next week in Portland. There's a little bit of space left, and my favorite thing on the list is snowshoeing outside, which will be great. But there is going to be a ton of people there that will be talking about the outdoor economy and how it sits with actual recreation areas, with products that are built for the outdoor space, and for talking about the roadmap that connects with our economic strategy, with our tourism marketing plans, and how we capture essentially the outdoor market, because people love coming to Maine.
Well, from a blue economy to snowshoeing in Maine, exciting stuff occurring at DECD. I did want to see if there are any burning questions from the attendees. If you want to use your raise hand function. I'll give 15 more seconds, last chance. I did want to make a pitch as well. Commissioner Loisem of the Department of Environmental Protection was unable to join us this morning, but will be joining us at our environmental summit next Thursday in Hallowell. We have a great agenda. The administrator of Region 1 EPA will be joining us, as well as a discussion on the future of the Kennebec River with the Nature Conservancy and SAPI, discussions on regulatory agenda for the state of Maine with former land division directors, 3 land division directors, as well as discussions about electrification of the Gulf of Maine and our PFAS policies that has affected the state for a number of years now. If there are no questions, I did want to thank again our sponsors, our speakers, the accessibility of our commissioners. We are so appreciative of the work they are doing in the partnership to grow this state of Maine economy. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the State House. Stay tuned for Maine State Chamber updates as we keep abreast of the activity of the legislature in the second session and hopefully encourage a pro-growth economy that works for our state's businesses. Thank you all and have a great day.